Hello, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. It's the 15th of July, and we're in the book of Ezekiel, the Passion Translation, Ezekiel and Daniel for the summer. Good morning. We took the day off yesterday. I needed a day of rest. I had Panda Express fast food, just a little bit of it in the evening, and had a very bad migraine from it. I think even though they say there's no MSG in their food, I don't think that's true. um, well, they actually say it's naturally occurring, so they don't attempt to add it, but it's in some of the products, I believe. So that did not go well, and so I really just also had been going pretty much nonstop and needed to just fill my tank again. So I wasn't able to get up yesterday. And now it's Saturday, and we're back in the book on chapter 31. And hello, Michelle. So hopefully you guys are doing well, and tomorrow's Sunday, so we won't be in our devotion. And Monday morning I have a dentist appointment right at 8 o'clock, so I will probably go on earlier or later. I'll put a little note on Facebook after having driven home to see whether I am able to get up early or if I have to do it when I get back. And we'll see what we come up with for Monday, but tomorrow, of course, we won't be on because it's Sunday and everybody's trying to get to church. So I'm so glad that you could come on today with me, and let's read chapter 31, and then we'll talk a little bit about it and pray. It says, the parable of the cedar tree. In the 11th year of our captivity, on the first day of the 3rd month, Yahweh spoke to me, saying, Son of man, say to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and his multitude, who is comparable to you in your greatness? I know who, Assyria. Once it was like a cedar tree in Lebanon, with its noble branches, its forest shade, and its lofty height. Its treetop among the clouds, plenty of water has made it grow. Deep springs have made it tall. Streams flow all around where it was planted, sending rivulets into all the other trees. So it towered high, much higher than the other trees of the forest, because of the plentiful waters making it grow. Its branches increased in number and spread out very far. All the birds of heaven nested in its strong branches, and wild animals gave birth under its shade. Many, many people sat in its shadow. It was beautiful in its greatness, tall with such large branches, for its roots were planted in plentiful waters. The mighty cedar tree was unrivaled in God's garden. No cypress compares to such lovely branches as these. No sycamore would match its splendor. No tree in the garden of God could match its beauty. I made it so lovely with its many branches. It was the envy of every tree in Eden, the garden of God. All right, and then God pronounces judgment on the cedar tree. Therefore, Lord Yahweh says, because it towered so high, and its top into the clouds, with its top into the clouds, and its heart was proud about its height, I've rejected it. I've handed it over to the mightiest of the nations to be punished as its wickedness deserves. The most ruthless of nations cut down the cedar and left it deserted. Its broken branches littered the mountains, the valleys, and every ravine throughout the country. Those who once sat in its shadow have fled and abandoned it. All the birds of heaven settled in the fallen tree, and all the wild animals lay among its branches. So from now on, let no tree, no matter how well watered, grow that high again, with its top pushing into the clouds. Let no watered tree grow that tall again, for all of them are doomed to death, and they will join those in the depths of the underworld of mortals with those who go down to the pit. All right, and the third section of this chapter says, the nations quake over the cedar's destruction. Lord Yahweh says, the day I cast it down to Sheol, I caused it to mourn, covering it with the deep springs. For I stopped its underground rivers, and I reduced the flow of the once plentiful waters. I clothed Lebanon with gloom, as they mourned for the cedar tree, and all the trees withered because of it. I made the nations quake at the crashing sound of its fall. They trembled as I hurled it down to Sheol with those who sink into the pit. In the depths of the underworld, all the trees of Eden, the finest, well-watered trees of Lebanon, were comforted when the cedar tree joined them. And the nations who sat in its shadow went down to Sheol with it to join those slaughtered by the sword. Which of Eden's trees could be compared to you in glory and greatness? Yet you have been hurled down with the trees of Eden to the depths of the underworld. You will lie among the uncircumcised and with those who have been slaughtered by the sword. So much for Pharaoh and all his multitudes. I, Lord Yahweh, have spoken. All right, so this is a parable, of course, and it is a warning to Pharaoh from the fate of the Assyrian Empire. Assyria, like Pharaoh, had exalted herself in pride above the nations. Having ruled supreme for 4 centuries, Assyria was overthrown by the united forces of the Babylonians and the Medes in 605 BC. So this is a warning to Assyria as well as Babylon. So with Nebuchadnezzar leading. He was a very powerful king in Babylon. He's called in verse 11 here. Sorry, I had a phone call and I wasn't sure who that was. He's called in verse 11 here a ram of the nations, or that's the literal description of verse 11 where it says, I've rejected it, I've handed it over to the mightiest of the nations to be punished as its wickedness deserves. It was the ram of the nations. Nebuchadnezzar was a very powerful king. And he says down in verse 14, so from now on, no tree, no matter how well watered, grow that. So from now on, let no tree, no matter how well watered, grow that high again with its top pushing into the clouds. And let no watered tree grow that tall again, for all of them are doomed to death, and they will join those in the depths of the underworld of mortals with those who go down into the pit. So he begins a description of hell, which in this section is called Sheol. Sheol is the Hebrew word for the underworld, the realm of the dead. The word Sheol is derived from a root word that means to ask a question. We all have questions about the afterlife, Brian Simmons says. So I feel like that's an interesting thing. First of all, I didn't know that that's what the root of the word Sheol means, that to ask a question. And good morning, Gail. I see you are on. I just feel like today and yesterday when I was reading this, that the point that I was struck by was the reality of hell again, and how, did you notice that these trees grew tall? That's what the point that I wanted to bring out today. And this is a parable about nations and people groups and how people or people groups become successful. And they are so tall and so well watered, their tops of their branches reach above the clouds. And so they're well known, they're famous, they have everything they need, and they're not like the common man. They're successful, is I guess is what I want to say. And down in, let's see, verse 16 it says, I made the nations quake at the crashing sound of its fall. Have you ever watched someone reach the height of success and then they crash down at their fall? And the nations trembled as I hurled it down to Sheol with those who sink into the pit. In the depths of the underworld, all the trees of Eden, the finest well-watered trees of Lebanon, were comforted when the cedar tree joined them. And the nations who sat in its shadow went down to Sheol with it to join those who were slaughtered by the sword. Which of Eden's trees could be compared to you in glory and greatness? So they had reached a glory and a greatness that was unparalleled. And yet it says, you have been hurled down with the trees of Eden to the depths of the underworld, and you're going to lie among the uncircumcised with those who have been slaughtered with the sword. So much for Pharaoh and all of his multitudes. And I think what God is saying here, and the point that I wanted to bring out, is that there's a big difference between heaven and hell. We could all list some differences. In fact, it's probably good to think about that. One of the things that I thought about today is that when you are a believer and you are living your life unto the Lord, you know, God is storing up riches for you in heaven, and He's actually making a place for you. He's actually building a home or a habitation for you as we are here in the earth, mindful of what you will be doing and what you will be being in heaven. And so all the things that you are doing, all the ways that you are responding to His Spirit here on the earth, He is collecting for you things that are going to make a glorious habitation for you in heaven. And He's actually even elongating your assignment that you had here in the earth. The things that make you you will be magnified in heaven. The things that are God-given, the personality that you have here, the persona that you have here, the way that God is developing you here is going to be what you are in heaven and more. And so in ways that we don't even understand or know can be developed in us. And so I want to ask you, how are you known here in the earth? What is something about you that you shouldn't be embarrassed to say it anyway. You should know who you are. Okay, so what are you in the earth? How do people think about you? What do they see of God in you? I could say that somebody's very kind. I could say that somebody is a rescuer of people, that they go after them, that they find them in their place of defeat and pull them up and out. There's so many ways God has made us, right? Well, those are the things that He's developing in us. And they're not only for here in the earth, but there will be ways for us to express ourselves in heaven. There will be degrees of authority, I believe, in heaven too. And the way that you walk in your authority here could be also in preparation, I believe, of how you'll be using your authority in heaven. All right, so you'll be ruling, with Jesus. Now, on the comparison side with Sheol or hell, we see here that it doesn't matter what sort of fame or glory you achieve here on the earth, all the things that you do, because there's not a belief, an anchor in Jesus. So the things that are done here, the things that you acquire here, have no place to follow you, so to speak, in the spirit. And instead, he describes it as the common person or the uncircumcised person alongside the one who has raised to the heights here in Assyria and in Babylon the finest well-watered trees of Lebanon. And then the nations who just sat in the shadow. All these people together, having done or accomplished whatever they did it outside of God. They did it outside of the one true God. And here's Lord Yahweh saying again that he's spoken in the end. And so the thing I wanted to say was all of that they did will be for naught. And so we have to think about now in the day and age that we live, and there's people that are accomplishing incredible things. They are helping mankind, maybe, and that's beautiful. But I guess I want to introduce the word eternity into our perspective. And with the eternal perspective, those things are not going to follow them if they don't know God. And so Sheol or hell, I just want to close by saying, is a real place. And if you're on here at some point watching this and you've not come to terms with that, it is a real place, and it is an eternal place. And that word eternity keeps coming up in my mind, that eternity separated from God, who only wants to develop you into who you were really meant to be, even into eternity. There could be nothing worse than to be eternally separated from him. And it's very important to make the decision to come into the family of God through Jesus Christ. It's very important that we don't put off that decision. That is such a welcome mat thrown out to us today, thrown out to you and I, so that everything that we are doing will matter for eternity, and who we are will be only embellished in eternity. The flip side, the comparison, as we started out to say today, what is the comparison between the two places? The flip side is that for all eternity, you will be separated from him, but you also will be not only underdeveloped, not only just completely stopped and frustrated in who you are, but you will be suffering. The torment and the suffering of Sheol or hell is enough, the thought of that is enough for us to be compelled to invite people into the family of God. Won't you think about this today, my friends, and tomorrow? Won't you consider your neighbors, the people that you see daily? Won't you consider their destiny? Won't you understand with me that our destiny is sure? That Jesus has accomplished for us all that we ever will need to be in his presence forever. Now can we take what is left of our lives here on the earth and make the path sure for our neighbor? That's my hope for you today, that you'll be able to do that with me. And may the Lord bless you. May the Lord bless the feet that are shod with the preparation of the gospel as you put on the full armor of God today. And may you walk in his path and lead those that you know in your sphere of influence. Maybe you just share this video with them and then ask them for tea. Tell them that you've been concerned about them. You know, people need to know that they're loved and that they matter. And there's so much more to this life and to eternity than what we're hearing about. All right, so I just want to leave you with that charge, and I will see you Monday. God bless you. Thanks for coming on again today, and we'll have a great time together again in a couple days. Pray for us that we end well here on our vacation and make it home safely. And thank you so much. God bless you guys. Bye. Have a great day.